Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a great day so far. My name is JurassicKM and welcome to today's video, which is also the first episode in a new series that I'm starting on the channel called Pallete Swap. The concept behind Pallete Swap is a fairly simple one. I am going to take a modern Jurassic figure and a classic Jurassic figure of the same species, and we are going to, in the same video, give the modern figure a classic color scheme, whether that's based on a movie, toy line, video game series, whatever, and then we're going to take the classic figure and give it a more modern color scheme, again, based on the toy lines, movies, video games, whatever. So for this first episode, I was digging through the boxes of figures that I have in my collection, and I found these spare Dimetrodons. So for this Mattel Extreme Damage Dimetrodon from Jurassic World Dominion, we are going to try and color match the classic Kenner Jurassic Park Dimetrodon. Now for the Kenner Dimetrodon, we are going to give it the screen accurate color scheme from Jurassic World Dominion because I'm really curious to see how this looks. These figures need to be cleaned and primed, and then we're going to get started. Hold up, before we wash or prime anything, let's get the most frustrating part of this process out of the way first, the color matching. So for the base green color for the Kenner Dimetrodon, what worked for me was I took 4 drops of grasshopper green and I mixed it with 3 drops of holiday green and 2 drops of leaf green. And as you can see from the final application on the rear leg here, while it may not be exact when it looks wet, as it dries, if you didn't already know it was there, you wouldn't know. For the underbelly, I kind of overthought this one, which is unsurprising as I overthink absolutely everything. So I started off with a base of early spring green, and I experimented mixing around with the grasshopper green, and as it turns out, a 1-to-1 early spring and grasshopper green is all you need to do the underbelly. Next, we need to color match the dark gray-green patterns on the top of the Dimetrodon. This one was a little tricky, but eventually I found a formula that worked for me, and that was 4 drops of slate, 2 drops of hunter green, and 1 drop of Amish gray. So matching the yellow spots actually turned out to be really easy. I originally tried a daffodil yellow, but that was a little too pale. So then I just tried this bright yellow, and that seemed to work. The last thing we need to color match is the inside of the mouth. And for that, this was an interesting mix. It's 3 drops of blush pink, 4 drops of storm cloud gray, and 2 drops of raw umber. With the color matching out of the way, we can now wash, prime, and put the 2-to-1 tan base coats on these figures. So now we're taking the base color and we're going to do a 2-to-1 paint to water ratio, and we're going to apply this over the whole figure except for the inside of the mouth. Because this is such a vibrant, bright color, you will need to do at least 2 coats. Up next is the pattern color, and while I had originally mixed this one as a 1-to-1 paint to water ratio, as you can see, this one came out a little too thin, so I'm going to have to do a second coat of this one. You can either do a 2-to-1 paint to water or a 1-to-1 paint to water, whichever you prefer, but we want to make sure that that's got a nice solid color on top of the bright green. As a reference, I am using a old Kenner Dimetrodon that I found in my collection, and this was actually the same Dimetrodon that I had back from when I was a child. And yes, I know that it's missing a lower jaw, but that's a problem for future me. So there are some parts of the Mattel sculpt that are taking forever and a day to dry. I have no idea why. So while I'm waiting on that, I'm going to do some work on the Kenner Dimetrodon sculpt. Since we've already covered the Dominion color scheme for the Dimetrodon, I don't want to spend too much time on this. So if you need a refresher on how to do the Dominion color scheme, I will put a link in the description below. So now that the Mattel sculpt has finally dried, we are going to work on the yellow spots on the sail. And for that, we are taking our bright yellow and we're going to do a 1 to 3 wash, and we're just going to kind of dab on the spots. And then once the wash dries, we will then take the same bright yellow and we're just going to dry brush some extra texture details on top of those wash spots. So while the Mattel sculpt is drying and doing its thing, I wanted to quickly jump back to the Kenner sculpt and do a little bit more work on that. And I'm really liking how this is coming along, and I hope anyone watching is having fun with this concept, because I sure am. Now we're bouncing back to the Mattel sculpt, and we're going to take our underbelly color, mix that with a 1 to 3 paint to water ratio, and we're going to apply that real quick. I have to confess that I am not a fan of the plain black shark's eye that the original Kenner Dimetrodon has. However, for this palette swap, I will use plain black straight out of the cap for the eyes and the nostrils. And while the original Kenner Dimetrodon does not have its claws painted, we are going to paint this Mattel one with black claws. So we're going to cover the mouth of the Mattel Dimetrodon next. So we are going to take our mouth color that we matched earlier, and we're not going to dilute it with water, and we're just going to put it on the inside of the mouth and on the jaw membranes, and then we're just going to use antique white, again, straight out of the cap, for the teeth. Since I don't believe for a second that I would be able to accurately recreate the texture of this figure using Milliput, we need to do something about the extreme damage feature. So we are going to be doing the same thing that we did with the bootleg React Attack Triceratops, and we're doing a 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 of deep red, cherry blossom pink, blush pink, and African violet. We're mixing that 2 to 1 paint to water, and then we are going to paint the wounds on the inside, and then we will take a 1 to 2 mix of deep red, and we're going to dab that on top of the wound. With the blood on the wound for the Mattel sculpt complete, the only thing that's left to do is to put the final touches on the Kenner sculpt, and then we are going to put the clear coat on the figures. Then we add clear nail polish to the eyes, nostrils, mouth, claws, and open wounds if they have them, and then these two are done. And thus concludes this Dimetrodon palette swap experiment. While the Mattel repaint with the Kenner colors does appear brighter than the original Kenner figure, I'm still pretty happy with how these colors turned out, and if nothing else, I had a lot of fun experimenting with this. I would like to do more of these palette swap episodes in the future. I have an idea and enough figures on hand that I can do at least one more episode of this. But with Kenner figures hard to come by, we'll see how that goes. Next time on the repaint table, we will be covering the pack of Monolophosaurs from Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous. Folks, if you've made it this far into the video, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch it. If you like what you see, be sure to give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for any future notifications, share this video around, and leave a comment. If you would like to support the channel further, you could do so by donating to my Patreon. The link will be down below. And until next time, this is JurassicKM, signing off.